Seminole family, we are back at it with another top 5. And today, I got the top 5 newcomers, meaning transfers, for Florida State this offseason. And no, it does not include the quarterback, because as we all know, DJU could either make or break this entire football team. Let's get into these top 5 guys. What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, and the 863 tribe? It is your boy POLK, a.k.a. the goddamn truth. And we back again with another top 5. You got a whole offseason of top 5, so y'all stay tuned. But today we got the top 5 newcomers via the transfer portal for Florida State in this upcoming year. But before we get into the top 5, y'all already know what we got to do. We got to pay the bills. Y'all got to come in my home. Y'all got to ring my doorbell, hit the like button, subscribe, and get in those comments. And lastly, don't forget to share the video. Share the video, guys. Let's not waste no more time. We got the top 5. And again, no quarterback, so no DJ. DJ will not be in this top 5 because by default, he'd be number 1. Let's not waste any more time. Number 5. At number 5, we have Malik Benson. That's right. I got Malik Benson, as I feel like of all the offensive additions, he has the opportunity, in my opinion, to have maybe the biggest impact. You're talking about a guy with a 10-4, 100-meter yard dash. He's 6'1", 195. Did not put up a lot of stats over there at Bama. Was like the number 1 in overall JUCO prospect when he came out. Considered Florida State when he first came out. Ultimately went the Bama route. Was there. Didn't really contribute. But if you look at Bama since they've had a new quarterback, since Bryce Young left, they really haven't had consistent quarterback play. So we're going to see what he can do in the garnet and gold. But if there's a player that I think can completely break this offense wide open, I think it can be Malik Benson. And because of that, I have him at number 5 on the top 5 newcomers. Let's keep it moving. Number 4. At the risk of butchering this name, I'm pretty sure I have his name fairly down packed. Tamaa Dur, 6'4", 278-pound defensive end, transferred from Kentucky, then transferred from West Virginia. Last year compiled 23 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. He is number 4 for me because of the simple fact of his versatility. I know in an interview he said he was focusing on primarily being a defensive end. FSU's got a lot of bodies in that DN room. They might lack a few bodies on the interior, at least for depth purposes. And a guy that's already 6'4", 278, it won't hurt him to add a cheeseburger or two, get up to the 280, 285s, maybe even low 290s. I mean, don't tell me this guy can't move inside and give you some proper snaps and some consistency. He is a very good athlete. Is he still learning the game? Sure. But if he can come around and give you that Dennis Briggs type versatility, that's the guy who I'm kind of comparing him to, is a Dennis Briggs type, a guy who Dennis Briggs played inside and outside for Florida State. I think Durage can do the same things. Because of that, I have him at number 4 on the top 5 newcomers. Number 3. At number 3, I got a former top 75 player in the class of 2022, a guy who mainly played special teams at Bama, so he's coming in kind of an unknown, but he's built like He's built like the linebackers we frankly have not been recruiting. 6'2", 225. I'm talking about Shawn Murphy, man. Again, this is a caliber of player at this position that we simply have not been recruiting on the recruiting trail. FSU loses Bethune and Deloach, who might be two huge losses that we're not. I don't know if we understand the impact until the season starts and how big those two losses may be. But a guy like Shawn Murphy may be able to soften that blow, and I think he has to be in the mix to start at one of the two backer positions. And because of that, that makes him number 3, because of the position and how pivotal it is and how pivotal he couldn't be to this defense if he turns out to be exactly what we need him to be. And number 3, I got Shawn Murphy, man. He's got a lot of expectations, but it's a big positional need. Let's see if he can step up to the plate here. Shawn Murphy at number 3. Number 2. Talk about names again. There's another name. I think I got it. We'll see here. But Sione, and the last one always gets me. Lolahea. That's what I'm going to go with. Sione Lolahea. 6'3", 265. Had 46 tackles last year. 8.5 tackles for loss. 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and 1.5 sacks. This is not a guy who they're bringing in to rush the passer. We have a guy that they're going to bring in to do that. We'll talk about him a little. Spoiler alert, we'll talk about him a little later. This is a guy who they're going to be counting on to be shut down against the run and seal one edge of the field. This is a guy who I actually think is going to play a ton of snaps for Florida State, and would not shock me if he's a borderline starter on this defensive front. I really, really think that. We know Patrick Payton's got one side of the field. If you told me to start the season that Sione is on the other side, I would go as far as to say I might even be predicting that. That doesn't mean that he will remain there. And I think they're going to be switching now. They're going to rotate heavy. That's what FSU does defensively. We're going to rotate heavy. But this guy I think is going to be pivotal. High motor guy. Gives you 110% every snap. And because we have so much depth, every time he's in there, I think he'll be effective because essentially he'll be a fresh body. I think Sione is going to be a bigger deal than people think. That's why I have him all the way at number 2, because at a minimum, he's going to be stout against the run. If you can stop the run, well, the rest of the defense can open up. I got Sione as the second most important newcomer via the transfer portal. But we got one guy left. Number 1. It shouldn't really be a shock here of who the number 1 most important player from the portal probably is. Of course, it's not DJU. I mean, it is DJU, but not for this list. I thought DJU would be too predictable. But this one's probably just as predictable, man. Marvin Jones Jr., all 6'5", 250 of them, was one of the most highly touted prospects when he was coming out of high school. I mean, some places had him the number 1 overall player in the country. He was a top 10 guy, regardless of what outlet you looked at. His pairing with Patrick Payton could be dynamite, could be dynamic. Now, he only had 16 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a fumble, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery his time at Georgia. But he suffered a lot of injuries in Georgia. Some would argue, myself, they kind of played him not to his strengths. I know he said one thing, but I believe he'll be a more consistent player with his hand in the dirt. I know he said it doesn't matter to him where he can play with his hand in the dirt or standing up. We'll see. I have a feeling he'll be more of a impactful player with his hand in the dirt. If Marvin Jones Jr. is everything he was touted to be, if Marvin Jones Jr. can put it all together, if Marvin Jones Jr. can stay healthy, there may not be a more impactful defensive end duo than those two 6'5", 240-plus pound defensive ends in Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. Marvin Jones Jr. has a chance. Listen, Sione was number 2. If Marvin Jones Jr. turns out to be a bust, that's still a good defensive end unit with Sione and Pat. They complement each other extremely well. But Marvin Jones Jr., if he is everything we hope him to be, turns that from a good pairing to, again, all-American type level defensive end duo in Tallahassee. I wholeheartedly believe that. And that is why, in my opinion, he is the number 1 transfer portal addition this offseason. Thank you for tuning in to 863 Seminole TV. And if you enjoy the content, hit that like button, subscribe, and share. And as always, it is your boy POLK. Stay classy, Seminoles, and we are out here. Go Noles.